been reached. We were given the notice that we needed to be ready for that verdict, and it was read at 2 o'clock. The courtroom was packed. I can tell you lots of tears, lots of sniffles as this verdict was read. We walked out in the hallway afterward, and law enforcement officers were crying. They were hugging Larry and Kay Woodcock. Samantha or Tammy Daybell's father hugged Larry Woodcock as the two of them cried together. A lot of emotion in that courtroom. This, of course, has been nearly a 5-year ordeal, and these families have waited for this day. Chad Daybell showed little emotion. And what happens from here is in less than an hour, we'll be back in the courtroom and the penalty phase of this trial will continue. What does that mean? It means that Tammy Daybell's siblings and her dad have prepared statements that will be read from the stand. They will get to read victim impact statements that basically share how they feel and how this has affected them. Chad Daybell's children could also read those statements, but they were not in the courtroom today. They were not here. No word if they are coming. And then because this is the penalty phase, the jury will then go back and deliberate if Chad Daybell should get the death penalty or life in prison. It's unclear how long that process will happen. I mean, who knows? It could be later today if all the victims go. It could go into tomorrow. It could go through the weekend. But the big news today, if you're just tuning in, Chad Daybell found guilty of murdering J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, his wife Tammy Daybell in her bed. He's found guilty of conspiracy to commit the murders of JJ, of Tylee, of Tammy, and he's found guilty of 2 counts of insurance fraud. Now, I don't expect that we'll see people coming down here just yet. After Lori Vallow's verdict last year, Larry and Kay Woodcock came down to address the press. I believe that they're going to stay up there until the penalty phase of the verdict happens. And I don't know how long that will last. I have to give you a little behind the scenes look at how this verdict, at least how we found out about it. Earlier this morning, the jury had a question and the court reconvened. The jury was called in, the judge was called in, everybody gathered in the courtroom, and there was part of an instruction that was not included. And the jury had a question about what that particular part of the instruction needed to be. So the judge added a 40-second instruction to the packet. They then went back and deliberated. Around 1 o'clock, we were sitting in the courtroom. There was a bailiff in there. There was some court staff. Another bailiff opened the back door, not back where near the judge's chambers are, and he said to the other guy, "Hey, come here now." And immediately we knew something's going on. This bailiff then left the courtroom. About 5 or 10 minutes later, Kay Woodcock was in the courtroom with us. She yelled, "We have a verdict." And several people in the courtroom cheered, and the bailiff said, "You can't do that, no cheering." And then I started to get multiple texts from people saying the verdict's in, the verdict's in. The courtroom started to fill up with law enforcement officers from Fremont County, the FBI, the Rexburg Police Department, the Attorney General's office, agencies from all across the state. They're represented in that courtroom. They have worked hard for this day, and they have got the verdict that they were hoping for, that the state has been working for. And, of course, Chad Daybell's defense attorney argued that he had nothing to do with this, but the jury thought otherwise. So, again, we're about to start that penalty phase. We will carry that for you live. The judge said that's going to start around 3:15 Mountain Time. It's 2:25 now, so we have about 50 minutes for that to happen. I can give you a look, Jordan. Why don't we pan if we need to? There are people gathered here outside the courthouse. Just kind of pan around. You can see cameras from news stations locally and national news networks. And then behind Jordan, I don't know if you can swing all the way around to a 360. There are people who are out here just at the courthouse. Just they wanted to come by. They wanted to see what was happening. And they are gathered here on the courthouse steps to see what this verdict is. This trial has been over 8 weeks long. If you include jury selection, it was 9 weeks. Jury selection started April 1st, and then witnesses started the following week with opening statements and witnesses and evidence. And then just yesterday, closing arguments. The prosecution took about 2 hours. The defense took about an hour and a half. And then the prosecution went back for a rebuttal closing that was nearly an hour too. And the jury began deliberating around 4 o'clock yesterday. They wrapped things up around 6. They are in sequestration. They cannot go home. So they went to their hotel, which is somewhere in the county. where they spent the night. They were back early this morning, 8 o'clock. And hey, Janice, can I interview you? Okay. There's somebody that's been here every day that from Rexburg that I thought I might get her thoughts. Julie, you want to grab her, Jordan, see if she'll talk? Lady in the denim shirt. A lady from Texas who knew Lori Vallow was also here. And Jordan's just going to run and grab her, see if she'll do a quick interview with me. We can get her thoughts about this whole thing. I don't know if she wants to do it, but she was in the courtroom when the verdict was read. Can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You'll be great. I interviewed you last year.
Yes, you did.
Remind everybody of your name.
Shelley Vester.
And Shelley, you're from Texas.
Yes, Austin.
And you were in the courtroom just now.
Yes, I was.
And describe the feeling.
Amazing. Tense, but relief.
Yeah.
It's a journey that's ending.
And did you predict that verdict?
Yes.
You did?
Of course. Yes.
Not surprised at all?
Not surprised. No.
What did you think looking at Chad Daybell as that verdict was read?
I was wondering if he was breathing. He was no expression at all.
Kind of like what we've seen the whole trial in a way, but was this different?
No, I think he did look a little pale. Did you think he looked a little pale?
I was sitting actually behind him, so
Okay.
I couldn't quite see his face, and there was a deputy in the way, but there was no movement as far as I could see.
Like you didn't even know if he was breathing, no blink, of course, which he never does, right? So, yeah.
You've been here several days, and you were here earlier in the trial.
I have. Yes.
What's your overall takeaway? I mean, why the draw? Why come out from Texas to spend time here?
Well, I was associated with Lori many years ago.
She did Lori's hair. Can I announce that?
Lori did my hair.
Lori did her hair. I think we said that last year.
Yeah, for 10 years. So
10 years.
So I played with Tylee when she was young, and I'm just here to support Tylee and Joe, and of course the other victims as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you happened to be here on verdict day.
No, and nobody was sitting in front of us.
Yeah,
so that was nice.
Were you here for Lori's verdict?
No, not
Okay.
for the verdict.
That
no.
Courthouse was packed that day. There were more media, it seemed, that day, although it's kind of picked up out here.
It has.
And
Yep.
and this is the result you wanted. Are you going back in for the
Yes.
penalty phase?
Oh yes, I'll be here till Saturday.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I know
You're
you did a
welcome.
great interview.
Thank you.
You
very
did good.
much. Thank
She's
you.
been here early every day with the
Yes,
group.
And thanks for the donuts.
Yes, brought donuts this morning. I guess that my theory on bringing donuts
You're
helped.
right. Yes, you're a repeat
Right.
because you brought them for Lori's trial
I
for
brought
the
'em-
verdict day, right?
Verdict day,
Verdict
brought
day.
donuts. We got the verdict in,
Yes.
and then did it again this year.
So that means you need to go to Arizona and bring donuts
I
as
will do
well.
it.
Okay.
I will do it. Let's not talk
Okay.
about Arizona yet, though. Although that she does bring up a good point. We do have another trial for Lori Vallow, who is in Arizona at the Maricopa County Jail on these charges in relation to the deaths of Charles Vallow, her fourth husband, and the conspiracy of the death of Brandon Boudreaux. So she faces conspiracy charges on both of those people, Charles and Brandon. That trial is scheduled to begin in August, but I don't think it will be happening in August. I think it will be happening early next year. Many of you are just tuning in. Chad Daybell found guilty this afternoon on all counts, 3 first-degree murder counts, including J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell. 3 conspiracy to commit first-degree murder counts, Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Tammy Daybell. 2 counts of insurance fraud for the insurance money that he used after Tammy Daybell died. He used those funds. And Chad Daybell killed his wife. He killed J.J. Vallow. He killed Tylee Ryan. And he conspired with Lori Vallow to commit their murders. That is what a jury decided on this afternoon when they handed down this verdict less than 20 minutes ago. And now we wait to see what his punishment will be. Will he face the death penalty? Will he face life in prison? Idaho has not sentenced somebody to death since 2017. This would be the first death penalty case in eastern Idaho in I don't know how many years, several years, possibly over a decade or more. But that jury could very well come back after this penalty phase and say Chad Daybell deserves to die for the crimes he committed against his wife and the children of his new wife. Inside the courtroom, we have Tammy Daybell's father, for the first time, he came to a court hearing. I spoke with him briefly after. It was very emotional. He said, I hugged Larry Woodcock and we cried. Larry Woodcock and Kay Woodcock were in there, tears running down their cheeks. I was sitting on a row in front of several law enforcement officers with their spouses. I could hear sniffles. I could hear, I didn't, not sobbing, but you could tell that people were crying. It was an emotional moment in there. And as we led up to the verdict, I mean, it actually happened so quick. I think we were in there less than 10 minutes. We've been in there 9 weeks. But when it came down to the verdict, the jurors were brought in. The jury, four person said, we have a verdict. It was given to the judge. The judge opened it. The judge gave it to the clerk. The judge had the clerk read the verdict. Guilty, 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 guilty. Chad Daybell stood. The judge asked the prosecution if he wanted to do a roll call to poll each juror. The prosecution said no. The defense also said no, which is different than Lori Vallow's trial, where her defense attorneys said, yes, we want you to poll the jurors, and they did. And then the judge said, okay, now that this is a first-degree murder case and the prosecution filed an intent for the death penalty, we will go straight into the penalty phase, which begins at 3:15 this afternoon, and we will carry that for you live as it happens. And then if Chad Daybell is sentenced to death by the jurors, they will decide if he's sentenced to death. We don't know when that execution would happen. That could happen. It will likely be several years because there are so many appeals that happen in death penalty cases, but it will likely be some time before Chad Daybell is put to death if they decide that route. If he is sentenced to serve life in prison, he will serve it at an Idaho Department of Correction facility, and he has not been assigned one, but I would imagine it would be somewhere in the Boise area. Got a cough here. So that's what we're looking at today. You can see we have a media podium set up here, assuming that some of the family members will come down and address reporters, probably not till after the penalty phase starts. You got to think that they've been preparing these statements. They've been waiting for this day for 4 years, over 4 years, to look Chad Daybell in the eye and try to get some sort of a closure or answers or something like that. And it's here. And the verdict was just read, and now they will sit down at the stand, at the podium, at the witness stand, and they will read their victim impact statements. So that's what we have going on here. Let's show people one more time if you want to pan around here, Jordan. We can see the media people that are here, lots of cameras from Idaho and national media as well. And then we also have several spectators who have gathered on the courthouse steps just to see what's going on and to get a look at the coverage or get a look at this historic day here at the Ada County Courthouse. I do want to say, if you missed the verdict, you can go back and watch it. All of the trial we have archived on our YouTube channel. 67 witnesses called by the prosecution. Several of them were called multiple times. They testified 2 or 3 times. The defense then called 11 witnesses, and then there were rebuttal witnesses that the prosecution called 6 of those witnesses. So all in all, we heard from over 80 people on the witness stand during this trial. Some of those witnesses talked for only 2 or 3 minutes. Some spoke for an entire day. I believe Lieutenant Ray Hermosillo was on the stand an entire day. And it appears that this jury weighed all the evidence. They weighed all the exhibits. They weighed all the witness testimony and came up with this verdict. Chad Daybell guilty on all counts. Love to know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think about this verdict. Were you surprised? It took 6 hours, a little under 6 hours. My count was about 5 hours, 54 minutes. Lori Vallow's jury took about 7 hours. And, you know, very similar pattern to hers, whereas hers broke, her trial, the jury started deliberating late in the afternoon, went home, came back the next day, had a verdict around lunchtime. As for this trial, they broke late in the afternoon yesterday, came back in the morning, and began deliberating too. In case you missed it earlier today, just about an hour before this verdict came down, I spoke with juror number 4 in Lori Vallow's trial. I interviewed her just here outside the courthouse, and she told me that she kind of gave us some insight as to what happens inside that jury room while they're deliberating. For her, she was equally as nervous this year, she said, waiting for that verdict to come down, not knowing when it would be, what it would be. And now that the jury has this off their minds, they can focus on the next stage, which is the penalty phase. So I think I'm going to run upstairs. I'm going to run back upstairs, get back inside the courtroom right now. As I mentioned, we will have that penalty phase here when it starts at 3:15. We're just going to stay live. You can stay live here. We'll probably keep the camera here in position in case anybody comes back out. And then once that penalty phase starts, you can just stay with us. Just keep watching. Got to take a little personal note here and thank you all so much for sticking with us throughout this trial, watching every day, for following us on our feeds, for commenting, for sending in your questions. There will be no Courtroom Insider tonight. Of course, it's a big day, but I'll actually be flying to CrimeCon, where I'm going to be interviewing Lori Vallow's sister, Summer Shiflett, on Saturday, and we'll talk about that next week on Courtroom Insider. But we'll definitely be back tomorrow night for Courtroom Insider, and through the weekend, too. We'll try to do some special editions from CrimeCon. To recap it all for you, I'm getting a buzz here. I hope they're not buzzing me to get upstairs. We have a verdict on the Chad Daybell murder case. It's taken a little over 8 weeks, and the verdict has been reached, and it is guilty on all counts. You can go back. You can watch that verdict if you want. You can watch the closing arguments that led to today, the other witness testimony. There's a lot to digest after this entire trial, and of course, we've got it all covered for you. So, Jordan, Jordan, do you want to come out for a minute? I'm going to bring Jordan out here. He can I'm going to talk with him about what the scene has been like. I told you what was happening inside the courtroom. Why don't we get Jordan here to tell you what things were like out here? What was it? How did you know that there was a verdict?
I have I've had my earbud in the whole time, just listening in, just with that anticipation everybody else had, but as each thing was read off, you'd hear people like cheering, and
out here there was cheers.
Yeah, and it was just kind of funny because it's almost like a sporting event or something like that, where just people were so excited, and it was really cool. And as I heard Judge Boyce read off all the charges, I started getting a little emotional too, which kind of surprised me because I've been involved with this case for a little bit, and I've always seen it as like an outside thing, but I was kind of shocked that I got a little choked up. But yeah, it's exciting, and I'm happy that we have verdict.
I'm going to call over this woman. Jordan, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you real quick? This is Megan. She was inside the courtroom. What was your thought being inside the courtroom as this verdict came down?
It's about time. 5 years. Justice has been served for Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. And next we're going to get justice for Charles.
What was the feeling in there?
Heavy. A mix of emotions. Happy, sad, nervous. Just really heavy. Really heavy.
Were you surprised at the verdict?
No. I was a little nervous about the JJ charge, but no, I knew justice would be served, and the jury of his peers has spoken, and he was found guilty, just like his wife.
Did you have a chance to look at Chad when the guilty verdict was read?
I did.
And what was his reaction?
No reaction. He didn't even make a facial expression whatsoever. No sad, no happy. He didn't move his shoulders. I'm shocked that he didn't react.
You have been one of the original people from the beginning following this, haven't you?
I have, yes.
What got you interested in the case?
When I saw missing kids and I was local, it just went straight to my heart, and I knew I needed to be a voice. And I've stuck through it since day one, and we got a lot more to go.
And you don't live in Rexburg?
I don't live in Rexburg. No, I lived in Meridian.
You lived in Meridian, and you traveled in for today?
I did. I traveled from Nevada for this verdict today.
From Nevada, and you have the bracelets on. Hold those up. She's got justice for JJ, Tylee, Tammy. Charles, I'm sure, is on
Charles,
there too.
Yep.
You've seen their photos over and over and over. I mean, they've become part of your life. I'm sure it's kind of an emotional day for you.
It's very emotional. I've gotten really close with the family, and they mean a lot to me. So feeling them and seeing their reaction is what we're here for. They've been through a lot and they deserve this.
Are you going back up in a few minutes?
I sure will.
Witnesses.
Yep.
All right.
I'm here.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Nate.
Good to see you. Just one of the many people who were in the courtroom today, and you can see there was just such a wide range of emotions. I can only imagine what's happening in the court, the hallway upstairs, as finally this verdict has been reached after such an extensive process. All right, Jordan, I think I'm going to head up. We're going to stay with us. I'm just going to hand off the mic to Jordan. If there's any breaking news, Jordan, I did want to ask you one thing, though. I'm going to bring Jordan back in here. How did you find out there was a verdict, and when you learned there was a verdict, what was the change in environment out here?
Yeah, so we had all just kind of gradually started getting set up just in case, but again, we really have no idea. And then you messaged me, and then I let the other camera guys know. It's like, there's a verdict. We're like, let's get this going. And so we all got set up, but it was kind of a scram there for a minute because we really had no idea what to expect or when it was going to happen. And so like once it came in and we could watch that feed, things got quiet and we just kind of waited.
And Jordan was out here messaging me. John Pryor just walked in, letting us know when people were walking in. And you had seen him earlier today, but that was for the hearing that they had about the juror question. It ended up not being the verdict. So
yeah, I was kind of had my eye out for like Pryor or anybody, and then I started seeing all the Rexburg police come in, and that's when I was like, oh, something's gonna happen. So
well, thank you for your hard work.
No problem.
Well, thank you, by the way, to everybody that liked the photo of Jordan. Jordan, this is how good of a guy he is. At lunch today, I was in the courtroom. I couldn't leave. He rode his new skateboard to Jimmy John's and brought me a sandwich and chips and a drink. And so I need to buy him Jimmy John's because he's out here in the sun. I mean, I'm in a courtroom where it's air conditioned. He's out here in the sun. Luckily, it's a beautiful day here in Boise. But our team behind the scenes, back at the newsroom, Peggy has been working so hard. Nate Sunderland, he's the guy that makes sure that this is streaming okay. Robert Patton, he's our web guy. He keeps us on so that you can read the updates. We have a whole slew of reporters. Caitlin Hart, she's in the courtroom right now. She's going to be taking over for me in a couple of hours when I take off. The team at East Idaho News has really done a lot over the past 2 months so that I could be here bringing you the news every day as they cover everything else. So I just had to publicly thank him, and I've just got to tell you, I work with really good people. Okay, I got to get upstairs because I don't want to be locked out of the courtroom. I'm going to hand the mic to Jordan. He's going to stay live here on the podium, and if there's anybody that comes out to talk, we'll carry it live, of course. And then once that hearing begins in about 20 minutes, we'll swap over and you can watch it. No idea how long we'll be here tonight. We could be here till 6, 7, 8. Could be back tomorrow. We'll just see how the remaining afternoon goes. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm Nate Eatons. Stay with us. Here you go, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. Yep.